You have been doing everything right. You cut out the fried food, you stopped eating red meat, you switched to whole grains, you started exercising 3 or 4 times a week. You even gave up the foods you love because your doctor told you your cholesterol was too high and you needed to bring it down. And then you went back for your follow-up blood work, sat in that little exam room, and your doctor looked at the results and said your cholesterol has barely changed. Maybe it dropped a few points. Maybe it did not move at all. Maybe it actually went up. And you sat there feeling defeated, frustrated, confused, angry. Because you did everything you were told to do. You sacrificed. You suffered through bland meals and early morning workouts, and you gave it everything you had. And it did not work. Your cholesterol will not budge. And your doctor's response was the same thing it always is. Let me write you a prescription for a statin. That will fix it. But here is what your doctor is not telling you. Here is what the pharmaceutical industry does not want you to know. And here is what could finally explain why your cholesterol numbers refuse to come down no matter how hard you try. The real reason your cholesterol will not drop has almost nothing to do with the food you eat. And the solution is not necessarily a statin pill that you take for the rest of your life. The real reason is hiding in plain sight, and today I'm going to expose it completely. Let me start by shattering the biggest myth in cardiovascular medicine. The myth that dietary cholesterol is the primary driver of blood cholesterol levels. For over 50 years, the medical establishment has told you that eating cholesterol raises your blood cholesterol. Eat fewer eggs, avoid shrimp, cut back on cheese, stay away from butter. And for 50 years, millions of people have dutifully followed this advice, depriving themselves of nutrient-dense foods, forcing down tasteless, low-fat alternatives, and wondering why their numbers still will not cooperate. Here is the truth that has been established by decades of metabolic research, but has been incredibly slow to reach your doctor's office. Your liver produces approximately 80% of the cholesterol in your body. Only about 20% comes from the food you eat, and your liver operates on a feedback loop. When you eat more cholesterol, your liver compensates by producing less. When you eat less cholesterol, your liver ramps up production to make up the difference. For the vast majority of people, this internal thermostat keeps blood cholesterol levels relatively stable, regardless of dietary intake. This means that for most people, obsessively avoiding dietary cholesterol is like trying to lower the water level in a swimming pool by catching raindrops with a cup, while ignoring the fire hydrant that is pumping water in from the other end. You are focusing on the wrong source. The real question is not what cholesterol are you eating. The real question is why is your liver overproducing cholesterol in the first place? And once you understand the answer to that question, everything changes. So let me tell you the real reasons your cholesterol will not come down. And there are several, each one more important than anything you have been told about diet. Reason number 1, chronic inflammation. This is the biggest, most important, most overlooked driver of high cholesterol that exists. And almost nobody, not your doctor, not the health magazines, not the pharmaceutical advertisements, is talking about it properly. Here is what you need to understand. Cholesterol is not your enemy. Cholesterol is a repair molecule. It is a first responder. When the inner lining of your blood vessels, called the endothelium, gets damaged by inflammation, your body sends cholesterol to the site of the damage to patch it up. Think of cholesterol like the spackle you use to fill a crack in a wall. The spackle is not causing the crack. The spackle is trying to fix it. If you keep seeing spackle showing up on your walls, the solution is not to ban spackle from your house. The solution is to figure out what is causing the cracks in the first place. When you have chronic, low-grade inflammation coursing through your body, your blood vessel walls are constantly being damaged. Tiny cracks and lesions are forming in your endothelium around the clock, and your liver responds by producing more and more cholesterol to send to those damaged sites for repair. Your liver is doing exactly what it is supposed to do. It is producing cholesterol because your body needs it. The cholesterol is not the disease. The cholesterol is the response to the disease. The disease is inflammation. And what causes chronic inflammation? The list is long and deeply connected to modern life. Processed foods loaded with refined seed oils, sugar, and artificial additives cause inflammation. Chronic stress causes inflammation through persistently elevated cortisol levels. Poor sleep causes inflammation. Excess visceral fat, the fat stored around your internal organs, is one of the most potent sources of chronic inflammation in the human body because visceral fat cells actively produce inflammatory chemicals called cytokines that circulate throughout your bloodstream 24 hours a day. Chronic infections, including gum disease and periodontal infections, cause systemic inflammation that has been directly linked to cardiovascular disease and elevated cholesterol. Environmental toxins, air pollution, heavy metals, pesticide residues, and industrial chemicals all trigger inflammatory responses in your body. So when your doctor tells you your cholesterol is high and hands you a statin, what is actually happening is this: your body is screaming for help. It is telling you through those cholesterol numbers that something is inflamed, something is damaged, something is wrong at a fundamental level. And instead of investigating what that something is, instead of looking for the source of the fire, the medical system's response is to chemically suppress the fire alarm. Statins work primarily by blocking an enzyme in your liver called HMG-CoA reductase, which reduces the liver's ability to produce cholesterol. The cholesterol number on your lab report goes down. Your doctor is satisfied. The pharmaceutical company sells another prescription. But the underlying inflammation that was driving the cholesterol production in the first place remains completely unaddressed. The fire is still burning. You just can no longer hear the alarm. I'm not saying statins are never appropriate. For people with established cardiovascular disease, for people who have already had a heart attack or a stroke, statins have been shown to reduce the risk of subsequent events, and that benefit appears to be related more to their anti-inflammatory properties than to their cholesterol-lowering effects. But for millions of people who are prescribed statins purely because of a number on a lab report, without any investigation into why that number is elevated, there is a better approach. Find and eliminate the source of inflammation. Address the root cause, and watch your cholesterol come down naturally, because your body no longer needs to produce it in emergency repair quantities. How do you reduce chronic inflammation? Start with these steps. Eliminate processed seed oils like soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil, sunflower oil, and safflower oil from your diet. These oils are extremely high in omega-6 fatty acids, which promote inflammatory pathways in your body when consumed in the excessive quantities that the modern diet delivers. Replace them with extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, and coconut oil. Dramatically reduce your sugar intake, including hidden sugars in sauces, dressings, bread, and packaged foods. Sugar triggers inflammatory cascades throughout your body and directly damages blood vessel walls. Address chronic stress through meditation, deep breathing, time in nature, social connection, and professional help if needed. Prioritize 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep every single night. Lose visceral belly fat through a combination of dietary changes, regular movement, and stress reduction. And see your dentist. Seriously. Chronic gum disease is one of the most under-recognized sources of systemic inflammation, and treating it can have a measurable impact on both inflammatory markers and cholesterol levels. Reason number 2. Insulin resistance and metabolic dysfunction. This is the second massive driver of stubborn high cholesterol that your doctor is probably not adequately addressing. And it is epidemic in the modern world. Insulin resistance affects an estimated 88% of American adults to some degree, according to metabolic health research. That means the vast majority of the population has some level of metabolic dysfunction. And metabolic dysfunction directly drives cholesterol overproduction. Here is the mechanism. When you eat carbohydrates, your blood sugar rises and your pancreas releases insulin. Insulin's job is to escort that sugar into your cells where it can be used for energy. But when you eat too many refined carbohydrates and sugars over time, your cells start to become resistant to insulin's signal. They stop responding efficiently. Your pancreas has to produce more and more insulin to get the same effect. This state of chronically elevated insulin, called hyperinsulinemia, has profound effects on your liver's cholesterol production. High insulin levels directly stimulate the same HMG-CoA reductase enzyme in your liver that statins are designed to block. In other words, excess insulin tells your liver to produce more cholesterol. It is like stepping on the gas pedal of cholesterol production. And at the same time, high insulin levels impair your liver's ability to clear LDL cholesterol from your bloodstream efficiently. So you have more cholesterol being produced and less cholesterol being removed. The result is elevated LDL cholesterol that simply will not come down no matter how many eggs you stop eating. But it gets worse. Insulin resistance does not just raise LDL levels, it changes the type of LDL particles in your blood. There are different sizes and densities of LDL particles, Large, buoyant LDL particles are relatively harmless. They bounce off your arterial walls like beach balls, but small, dense LDL particles are extremely dangerous. They can penetrate the endothelial lining of your arteries, lodge inside the arterial wall, become oxidized, and form the core of atherosclerotic plaques. Insulin resistance specifically promotes the formation of these small, dense, dangerous LDL particles, while simultaneously raising triglycerides and lowering protective HDL cholesterol. It creates the absolute worst possible cholesterol profile for cardiovascular disease. And here is the critical point. A standard cholesterol panel, the one your doctor orders every year, does not distinguish between large, buoyant LDL and small, dense LDL. It just gives you a total LDL number. So you could have a relatively normal LDL number but be loaded with small, dense particles that are destroying your arteries. Or you could have a high LDL number made up primarily of large, buoyant particles that are relatively harmless. The standard test does not tell you the difference. You need an advanced lipid panel, sometimes called a lipoprotein fractionation test or an NMR lipoprofile, to get this critically important information. And most doctors never order it. The solution to insulin resistance-driven cholesterol problems is not a statin, it is fixing the insulin resistance. Reduce your intake of refined carbohydrates, sugar, and processed foods. Eat more whole foods with healthy fats, quality proteins, and fiber-rich vegetables. Incorporate regular physical activity, especially resistance training, which dramatically improves insulin sensitivity. Consider time-restricted eating, where you compress your eating window to 8 or 10 hours per day, giving your insulin levels time to come down during the fasting period. These interventions address the root metabolic dysfunction that is driving the cholesterol overproduction. And when the root cause is fixed, the cholesterol naturally normalizes. Reason number 3, chronic stress and cortisol. This is the reason that shocks most people, because nobody thinks of stress as a cholesterol problem. But the connection is direct, powerful, and well documented. When you are under chronic stress, whether it is work pressure, financial anxiety, relationship conflict, health worries, caregiving burden, or any of the countless sources of stress in modern life, your adrenal glands produce elevated levels of cortisol around the clock. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone, and in short bursts, it serves important survival functions. But when cortisol stays elevated chronically, day after day, week after week, month after month, it wreaks havoc on your metabolism and your cholesterol levels. Chronic cortisol elevation stimulates your liver to produce more cholesterol and more triglycerides. It promotes the accumulation of visceral fat, the inflammatory belly fat I mentioned earlier. It raises blood sugar levels, contributing to insulin resistance. It impairs thyroid function, which I will discuss in a moment. It disrupts sleep, which further elevates inflammation and metabolic dysfunction. And it damages the endothelial lining of your blood vessels directly, creating more inflammation and more demand for cholesterol as a repair molecule. I have had patients whose cholesterol was stubbornly elevated for years, despite perfect diets and regular exercise. When we finally address their chronic stress through counseling, meditation, lifestyle changes, and in some cases medication for anxiety or depression, their cholesterol dropped significantly within months. The stress was the driver all along. But nobody had bothered to look at it because the standard medical approach to high cholesterol is write a prescription and move on. If you are under chronic stress and your cholesterol is elevated, addressing the stress is not a luxury. It is not self-indulgent wellness fluff. It is a medical necessity for your cardiovascular health. Find what works for you. Meditation, deep breathing exercises, regular walks in nature, therapy, setting boundaries at work, reducing obligations that drain you, prioritizing joy and connection. Whatever reduces your cortisol levels will, over time, help reduce your cholesterol levels as well. Reason number 4, thyroid dysfunction. Your thyroid gland is a small, butterfly-shaped gland at the base of your neck, and it is the master regulator of your metabolism. It controls how fast your body burns energy, how efficiently your cells process nutrients, and critically, how your liver handles cholesterol. When your thyroid is underactive, a condition called hypothyroidism, your entire metabolism slows down. And one of the first things that happens is your liver becomes less efficient at clearing LDL cholesterol from your bloodstream. The LDL receptors on your liver cells, the receptors that grab LDL particles and pull them out of circulation, become sluggish and reduced in number. LDL builds up in your blood, your total cholesterol rises, your LDL rises, and no amount of dietary change will fix it because the problem is hormonal, not dietary. Hypothyroidism is extremely common, especially in women over 50. Some estimates suggest that up to 20% of women over 60 have some degree of thyroid underactivity. And here is the infuriating part. Many doctors will check a basic TSH level, see that it falls within the broad reference range, and declare the thyroid normal. But the reference range for TSH is extremely wide, and many people experience symptoms of hypothyroidism, including elevated cholesterol, fatigue, weight gain, cold intolerance, dry skin, hair loss, and brain fog, even when their TSH is technically within the normal range, but sitting at the higher end. If your cholesterol is stubbornly elevated and you have any symptoms of hypothyroidism, insist on a comprehensive thyroid panel that includes not just TSH but also free T3, free T4, reverse T3, and thyroid antibodies. This complete picture can reveal thyroid dysfunction that a basic TSH test alone completely misses. And if thyroid underactivity is identified and properly treated with thyroid hormone replacement, cholesterol levels often improve dramatically without any other intervention. Reason number 5. Gut health and your microbiome. This is the frontier of cholesterol research, and what scientists are discovering is genuinely revolutionary. Your gut microbiome, the trillions of bacteria living in your intestines, plays a far larger role in cholesterol regulation than anyone previously imagined. Certain beneficial bacteria in your gut actually help metabolize and eliminate cholesterol from your body. They convert bile acids, which are made from cholesterol, into forms that are excreted in your stool rather than reabsorbed back into your bloodstream. When your gut microbiome is healthy and diverse, this process works efficiently and your body maintains a healthy cholesterol balance. But when your gut microbiome is disrupted, a condition called dysbiosis, this cholesterol elimination pathway becomes impaired. More cholesterol gets reabsorbed, blood levels rise. What disrupts your gut microbiome? Antibiotics are the most dramatic disruptors, wiping out beneficial bacteria colonies that can take months or years to recover. But chronic stress, poor diet, lack of dietary fibre, excessive sugar, artificial sweeteners, processed foods, environmental toxins, and certain medications including proton pump inhibitors and NSAIDs all contribute to gut dysbiosis over time. Additionally, researchers have identified a molecule called trimethylamine N oxide, or TMAO, that is produced by certain gut bacteria when they metabolize nutrients found in red meat and eggs, specifically carnitine and choline. Elevated TMAO levels have been associated with increased cardiovascular risk and may promote cholesterol deposition in arterial walls. The composition of your gut microbiome determines how much TMAO you produce, which means two people can eat the exact same meal and have completely different cardiovascular effects depending on the bacteria in their gut. The solution is to nurture a healthy gut microbiome. Eat a diverse range of plant foods including vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. These provide the prebiotic fiber that feeds beneficial bacteria. Consume fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, and miso, which provide live probiotic bacteria. Minimize unnecessary antibiotic use. Reduce processed food consumption. Manage stress, which directly impacts gut bacterial composition. And consider a high-quality probiotic supplement, particularly strains that have been specifically studied for cholesterol metabolism, such as certain lactobacillus and bifidobacterium species. Reason number 6, lack of the right type of exercise. Most people who are told to exercise for their cholesterol start walking or jogging. And while any physical activity is better than none, the type of exercise that has the most powerful impact on cholesterol is not steady-state cardio. It is high-intensity interval training and resistance training. Research has consistently shown that resistance training, lifting weights or using resistance bands, significantly improves cholesterol profiles by increasing HDL cholesterol, reducing triglycerides, and shifting LDL particles from the dangerous small dense type to the less harmful large buoyant type. It also dramatically improves insulin sensitivity, reduces visceral fat, and lowers inflammation, addressing multiple root causes of elevated cholesterol simultaneously. High-intensity interval training, where you alternate between short bursts of intense effort and recovery periods, has been shown to be more effective at improving cholesterol levels than moderate-intensity continuous exercise of the same duration. The metabolic effects of high-intensity work, including the afterburn effect where your metabolism stays elevated for hours after the workout, create hormonal and metabolic changes that directly benefit your lipid profile. This does not mean you need to become a bodybuilder or run wind sprints until you collapse. Even modest resistance training 2 to 3 times per week, using light weights or resistance bands, combined with brief intervals of higher intensity walking or cycling 2 to 3 times per week, can produce meaningful improvements in cholesterol numbers within 8 to 12 weeks. Now let me tell you what I want you to do with all of this information. Step 1. Ask your doctor for a comprehensive metabolic workup, not just a basic cholesterol panel. Request an advanced lipid panel with LDL particle size and number. Request a fasting insulin level and a hemoglobin A1C to assess insulin resistance. Request a high-sensitivity C-reactive protein, which is a marker of systemic inflammation. Request a comprehensive thyroid panel, including free T3, free T4, and thyroid antibodies. These tests will give you and your doctor a vastly more complete picture of what is actually driving your cholesterol and what interventions will actually work. Step 2. Address the root causes I have outlined. Reduce inflammation by cleaning up your diet, managing stress, improving sleep, and treating any chronic infections, including gum disease. Fix insulin resistance through dietary changes and exercise. Manage chronic stress through deliberate daily practices. Get your thyroid properly evaluated and treated if needed. Nurture your gut microbiome through diverse plant foods and fermented foods. Incorporate resistance training and interval exercise into your weekly routine. Step 3. Have an honest conversation with your doctor about whether a statin is truly necessary for you specifically, given your individual risk factors, your family history, and the results of your comprehensive testing. Statins are appropriate for some people, but they are massively overprescribed to people who would benefit far more from addressing the underlying causes of their elevated cholesterol rather than simply suppressing the symptom with medication. Step 4. Track your progress. Get retested in 3 to 4 months after implementing these changes. Compare not just your total cholesterol and LDL numbers, but your inflammatory markers, your insulin levels, your particle sizes, and your triglyceride to HDL ratio, which is one of the most powerful predictors of cardiovascular risk that exists. If you have truly addressed the root causes, you should see improvements across the board, improvements that a statin alone could never produce. The pharmaceutical industry generates tens of billions of dollars every year from statin prescriptions. They have enormous financial incentive to keep the conversation focused on cholesterol numbers and statin prescriptions rather than on root causes and lifestyle interventions. I'm not suggesting a conspiracy. I am simply stating an economic reality. When the solution to a problem is a pill, the companies that make the pill profit enormously. When the solution is eating better, moving more, sleeping well, and managing stress, nobody makes a dime. There is no multi-billion-dollar industry behind eat more vegetables and go for a walk. And that financial imbalance shapes the information that reaches you, the guidelines your doctor follows, and the treatment you receive. You deserve better than a number on a lab report and a prescription. You deserve to understand why your cholesterol is elevated. You deserve to have the root causes investigated. You deserve to be given the opportunity to address those causes before being put on lifelong medication. And you deserve to know that for millions of people, the real reason their cholesterol will not drop has nothing to do with eggs, or butter, or shrimp, and everything to do with inflammation, insulin, stress, thyroid function, gut health, and the type of exercise they are or are not doing. Now you know the truth. Now you have the information. Now the power to change your health is in your hands. Type in the comments whether you have been struggling with cholesterol that will not come down despite dietary changes. Type root cause if you are going to ask your doctor for comprehensive testing at your next appointment. I want to see that commitment flooding the comments because it means people are finally getting the complete picture. Share this video with everyone you know who who has been told their cholesterol's too high. Share it with everyone who is frustrated because their diet changes are not working. Share it with everyone who has been prescribed a statin without ever being told about the 6 root causes I just revealed. This information needs to reach the people who need it most. Subscribe and turn on notifications. I will keep giving you the truth about your health. The whole truth, not just the part that sells prescriptions. I will see you in the next video. Take control of your cholesterol by taking control of what is actually causing it. Your heart deserves nothing less.